You're listening to Peterborough's community radio, Salam Radio. Salam Radio. 106.2 FM.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن
Assalamu alaikum. This is your very own Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum for Salam Radio 106.2 FM. My goodness, I almost missed the start of the show because I became embroiled in conversation with Brother Shafiq, who was here for the Naat show, for the Nasheed show that is run by Brother Rustam Suleiman, that's broadcasted by Brother Rustam Suleiman and presented by him. And goodness me, it was lovely because he'd walked out of the studio without his shoes on, and I came in and I noticed that his slippers were here. So I shouted out to him and I said, where are you going without your slippers? So he came back and we became embroiled in a conversation, especially more so about what's happening in the world today and how we negotiate things, how we speak to each other, how we communicate with each other, and how communication is really important. And I think that that forms the bedrock of what I'd like to talk about today. So I am Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum, and I am a GP in Bretton Park Medical Centre. And I love being a GP. It does come with its challenges within the NHS, but I'm also incredibly wary of the fact that my role, and especially here on the radio, encompasses a lot of things that an individual can talk about. So as GPs, we don't just deal with clinical and physical problems. We deal with a lot of other things as well. And I think that it's so important that we talk about them. Those things that put people out of their comfort zone sometimes. I think that's very important. And in light of today and what's happening all around the world, within our country as well, I think it's ever so important that we speak a little bit about how things impact us as individuals and as human beings. And you know, the power of human communication and the power of human emotion can sometimes be so profound and so strong that it can have a physical impact on you as well. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. I'd really like you to be part of this conversation. And in order to be part of this conversation, I'd like you to ring me on 01733602133. I'd love to talk to you about your experiences, what you feel, how you cope with situations. Or you can text me on 07411191062. And you can communicate with me. I just shared the live stream from the Salam Radio Facebook page. It would be such a pleasure if you could talk to me and send your comments through. I've already got some comments that have come through from David Garner, whose joke I'm going to read out because this is a bit of a serious show, David, but I definitely will read what you have written out. And then we've got Lee Taylor, and we also have Sister Nadia Abdurrahman. So welcome. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Peace be upon all of you. I think that's so important, that peace be upon all of you at this time. I think it's incredibly important. And I'll tell you in a little while what we're going to talk about in terms of the show, but I'm just going to read out David's joke. So, breaking news, man crushed by a steamroller. Police not sure what happened as evidence is thin on the ground. He is in a stable condition in the hospital on wards 5, 6 and 7. Well, you never cease to cheer me up, David. Thank you very much. And Sister Nadia, I really hope that you take some benefit from this show today, because I'm going to be talking about post-traumatic stress disorder. How many of you actually know what post-traumatic stress disorder is and what it entails? And I'm going to read out a quote. And the quote was on a brother who I am connected with on Facebook by the name of Brother Sarul Jamal. And he put up a very interesting quote. It's important to understand the meaning of this quote. So I'm going to read it out to you all. And the quote goes such that the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. So the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And you have burned so very, very brightly. And that gave me a reason to think about where this quote was coming from. We've seen so much emotion within individuals about events that are taking place all around the world, how they've been impacted by it, more so negatively, how that has manifested itself both within the public domain and through conversations and behind closed doors and through images on social media and through the news and media outlet channels and through tabloids. And there's only so much. The take-home message that I took from this quote is that when we invest so much energy in exuding whatever we're passionate about, we do have the potential to only burn with the same energy for so long. So it's important to safeguard that. It's important to protect that. And another really interesting thing that I saw was a perception of how people grow around grief. Because there's so much grief that's being felt. There's so much, I won't say negativity, but so much pain, so much deep, deep rooted pain in people. And growing around grief is a quote by Lois Tonkin in 1996, who said that people think that grief slowly gets smaller with time, but that's not true. In reality, grief stays the same size, but slowly life begins to grow bigger around it. And that is how the mind operates when you are faced with situations of grief. And I think it's so important that we validate how people feel and validate how individuals feel. So I'd really like for all of us to think about that. And whilst I'm sharing this video to our various channels, I'd like you all to do one thing for me. I'm going to start off before we talk about what actually trauma is. And I'm not going to talk so much about the manifestations of trauma. I'd really like this to be a useful show to talk about how we deal with it. Because that was the reason why I decided, on the suggestion of Sister Nadia, to broadcast this show so that it would be meaningful to you and so that it would be something that you can take some learning from and coping mechanisms. That's the right word. Coping mechanisms on how to deal with the pain of what we experience. So let's talk a little bit about what post-traumatic stress disorder is. And we can take it from there, can't we? I'd like you to ask me questions about this, and I'm not going to be scripted. I just want it to be simple. And post-traumatic stress disorder, or even traumatic stress disorder, is a condition where you have occurring distressing memories, flashbacks, images, or other symptoms after having witnessing a traumatic event. And we're seeing all too much of this. You know, there are people that are subject to areas that are in places of war all over the world. We are seeing people locally within the United Kingdom who are so torn emotionally about images and news, or they may be connected to somebody. We have people in certain public service positions who suffer from trauma as well. And the treatment options for this, and I'm going to cut to the chase on this, include self-help techniques, which is something that I'm a great fan of, as well as medication if it gets really bad. And the taboo around taking medication isn't a bad one. It depends upon what your own individual circumstances are like and how or what your thresholds are to manage those circumstances. But I really do hope that you can take something away from this show as well. And I also don't want to underestimate the advantages of therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT as it's called. So PTSD, which is the abbreviation for post-traumatic stress disorder, is actually a mental health condition which develops after you've been involved in or witnessed a serious trauma, such as a life-threatening assault. That's one example. And during the trauma or during witnessing something, and one of the stark examples is obviously what's happening in Gaza right now with the conflict and those families that are connected to both sides, both in Gaza and both those that have relatives that are hostages in Israel too. There is a deep sense of trauma, and a deep sense of trauma that is being felt by the wider public as to what they're witnessing. And you feel helplessness, you feel horror, and you feel intense fear as well. Some people develop flashbacks or memories that affect them soon after they've witnessed this trauma. But the other side to post-traumatic stress disorder is that people may often witness this several months or even years after the initial event. So it is not to be underestimated by any means. Now, these recurring thoughts can play time and time again in your mind. There will be certain images that you find distressing, for example, more so if it involves death, trauma, disability, children. Images, dreams, or flashbacks of the trauma day to day, which are incredibly distressing to an individual. You try to avoid thoughts, conversations, places, people, activities. So it's that avoidant personality, which may trigger memories of the trauma, as these make you distressed or anxious. It can impact on how you deal or speak to people. It can impact on your productivity if you have a day job as well. It can unconsciously also make you bias towards, or your attitudes changing towards other people. That's something that I would really like you to take home from this. That are we, as a result of our experiences and what we're subjected to, do we subconsciously, without us not knowing or unintentionally, become biased towards others too? A lot of us might be in denial about it, but it is a question that each and every one of us need to ask, especially when we live in such a diverse country as the United Kingdom. And it's important to have real conversations around that too. So I'd like us all to ask ourselves that if we are in a public-facing situation or a job, by what we observe or what we're affected or traumatized by, does that subconsciously make us bias towards others? Or is it that we feel that we're not as affected so that we don't exude a bias towards others? And from a religious perspective, because this is an Islamic radio show, I do think that it's important to remind ourselves of the teachings of our religion, to treat people with honor, dignity, respect and peace, and to always use that as a counter narrative whenever we find ourselves with feelings of intense anger and agitation especially. I think that's really important to bring those thoughts home. And your outlook for the future when you suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder is often pessimistic. You can often lose interest in activities. I know it's happened to all of us. I know over the last couple of weeks or so, I haven't been able to concentrate on my house properly. It hasn't been, and I've quoted this time and time again, business as usual is really quite on the back burner for many of us. And you lose interest. You lose interest in activities which you used to enjoy, and you find it difficult to plan for the future because of what you're facing. And it can affect your other physical needs in the way of the sleep that you get. I've seen many people out there that are saying, I can't get to sleep. I can't sleep at night. I have thoughts of what I've observed, and it's traumatizing. People have expressed how they feel on social media platforms through text messages that I've received from so many that are saying that they can't sleep at night, they can't think straight, they can't focus, they can't go to work. In some extreme cases, I've even had people who have said to me they've taken days off from work as well. And this is from people from all communities, not just the Muslim community that I've had. People have reached out to me. In fact, thousands of people have reached out and have spoken to me about the pain that they sometimes experience as a result of post-traumatic stress disorder. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's important to validate how people feel. You have to validate how people feel. You have to. You have to understand and say, I'm listening. I hear you. That's the first take-home message that I want each and every one of you listening to this show to take away, that you have somebody that says that to you. I'm listening. I'm here for you. I understand how you're feeling. I might not be feeling the same as you or feel the extent to what you're feeling, but I understand. I validate how you feel. And even those words are very powerful in setting somebody on towards the path of recovery. So let me say that all to you now, that if you are somebody that is coming from a place of trauma and you've experienced trauma, I validate how you feel. I understand how you feel. And it's not easy. But there is absolutely no reason why you cannot take steps towards ease, emotional ease and recovery. Going back to some of the other physical manifestations are having increased awareness around you, how people look at you, how people speak to you. What are the hidden messages in news outlets? You'll come across a video on social media. What is it people are trying to say to you? What does their body language say to you? You automatically, when you suffer from trauma, you become more aware of the underlying nuances of conversations that people have with you once you've experienced your trauma. Is it that people are just being careful? It's important that people are given an element of the benefit of the doubt as well. So we'll always try to reflect upon that too. If you're suffering from trauma, you can also become more easily startled than you were before if somebody takes you by surprise. So it's important that you think about these things. And if this is you, then perhaps it's something that we all need to talk about. So these are a couple of the main cardinal symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And if they get worsened, the others can be anxiety, panic attacks, nightmares of your experiences, especially if you are physically being present in an area where you've had a traumatic stimulus take place. I don't want to take away from those people that have experienced, for example, domestic violence. That can cause trauma. The loss of a loved one or bereavement can cause trauma, especially if you have observed the death of a loved one. If you have been in an accident, I really do want you to understand that there is a way out for you. And remember what I said at the beginning of this show, that the grief doesn't get smaller. The pain doesn't get smaller. The trauma doesn't get smaller. But our life, which is the element that we have control over, can get bigger around this grief so that it looks dwarfed in comparison. So I'd like you to hold on to that. It's normal. It is absolutely normal to feel upset straight after a traumatic event. But for many people, the distress gradually eases. And it's true, the distress gradually eases. So if you've got post-traumatic stress disorder, the distressing feelings and symptoms persist. But in some cases, the symptoms last just a few months and then ease and go. However, in some cases, the symptoms persist long term as well. Now, there are 4 in 5 people who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder who also have an underlying other mental health condition, such as anxiety. They may have depression. They may suffer from active panic attacks. They may have phobias. And also, there could be, in a very small proportion of people, the involvement of illicit substance misuse as well, or even an alcohol addiction or smoking addiction as well. Having a mental health disorder when you've got post-traumatic stress disorder can increase the length and period of post-traumatic stress disorder as well. But if you've got no other underlying mental health problem, having post-traumatic stress disorder can also increase your chances of developing other mental health issues as well. So the trigger factors for it are, and this is something that's really important in terms of statistics, 1 in 100 people will develop post-traumatic stress disorder at some stage in their life. And in the UK, 4 in 100 people are expected to develop post-traumatic stress disorder at any given time as well. There are studies that have been carried out, and I'm going to give you some useful statistics. 1 in 5 firefighters experiences post-traumatic stress disorder in their serving lifetime. 1 in 5 police officers experience post-traumatic stress disorder in their serving lifetime. 1 in 3 teenage survivors of car crashes. 1 in 2 rape survivors. It's important that we talk about these things. 1 in 3 people who have been in combat in war will suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. That's 1 in 3. So can you see how stark? And 80% of people in a war zone will at some point who've absorbed and witnessed bombing and death around them will suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. And the statistics are far less for those who see the images, but it doesn't mean that they don't have them or aren't affected by them as well. And the risk factors are if you've got previous mental health problems, if you're female, that's another factor as well. Coming from a poor background or being subjected to poverty can put you at risk of post-traumatic stress disorder. Having a lack of education, coming from an ethnic minority can increase your chances of post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is something that's quite interesting because in ethnic minority groups, it's not often spoken about, least the Muslim community. And this is where faith and spirituality play a massive role. And that's something that I'm going to talk about in the latter part of the show. But even a family member with a history of mental illness or being exposed to some trauma in the past can lead to having post-traumatic stress disorder. And you might not need any treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder, especially if your symptoms are mild. But it's very important that you recognize those symptoms and recognize the fact that there is help out there. Now, I'm going to read before we go on to a break. So Lee has said, let me just read his comment out. I wanted to share this. David, don't say sorry. It was good that you had that joke. That was lovely. You've cheered us up. I wanted to share this with everyone. This is what Lee is saying. I wanted to share this with everyone. It's fine to smile at someone. Do more of it. Smiling is infectious. You catch it like the flu. When someone smiled at me today, I started smiling too. And what Lee has said is that I passed around the corner. Someone saw my grin. When he smiled, I passed it down to him. I thought about that smile. Then I realised its worth. A single smile, just like mine, could travel round the earth. So if you feel a smile again, don't leave it undetected. Let's start an epidemic quick and get the world infected. I think that's such a lovely thing to do. Right. The fight scenario, Jason, absolutely right. Very good information. Mohammed Abdullah Rizwan. Sister Nadia, is it possible to have survivor's guilt from witnessing all the trauma and death? I think about the survivors having lost their loved ones, no access to water and food. Absolutely it is, Sister Nadia. I validate how you feel. That is part of acknowledging another person's pain. We are going to the break. Please don't go away. I'm going to read out your comment, Jason. Join me after the break.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Masterminds Tuition Academy is for your high schoolers, your something to provers, your subject strugglers and keen learners, your brave jumpers and fist pumpers. Affordable personalised learning plans are delivered through our centres in schools across Peterborough. But not to worry, we also provide online and home visits with flexible timings. Whether it is maths, English, science or 11 plus, Masterminds is a must. Find us on all socials and visit our website mastermindstuitionacademy.com or call us on 07516 166 003. Masterminds, master the matrix.
At Master's Pharmacy, we put your health and convenience first. We offer free blood pressure checks and blister-packed medication. With our free same-day prescription delivery service, you can have your medication when you need it. We also offer travel vaccinations, including Hajj and Umrah, along with other services to meet all your pharmacy needs. For more information, contact Master's Pharmacy on 01733 567 208 or visit us at 303 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PH.
Thinking of laser hair removal but worried about cost? Well Skin Clinic, Peterborough's #1 aesthetic clinic, offers 0% finance on courses of laser hair removal. We perform thousands of treatments using the Soprano titanium in our prestigious clinic. Virtually pain-free and suitable for all skin types, our team of aesthetic professionals can help you achieve your goals affordably. Well Skin Clinic, making life-changing aesthetic treatments affordable for all. 40 Cowgate, Peterborough. Call or WhatsApp us on 01733 555540.
Do you own a restaurant or takeaway? Cater Fair is an expert supplier of new and used commercial catering equipment. Visit caterfair.co.uk for quality equipment on sale at the lowest prices, or call us on 01733 310 115 or visit us at 11 Royce Road, Fengate, Peterborough.
At Cake Inn, all our cakes and slices are freshly baked for that delicious taste. At Cake Inn, we bake 100% vegetarian and halal eggless fresh cream cakes. Delicious flavoured cakes for birthdays and weddings, ceremonies and all other occasions, with free customised messages, even balloons and candles too. Order for delivery or collection from Cake Inn, 489 Lincoln Road, PE1 2PE, and your cake could be ready within 2 hours. Find out more and order online at cakein.co.uk or call 01733 496 584.
Mart Food Store, Lincoln Road, Triangle, te inna rush o balle hoye tusani amba ne pure mulke vich rolle
Pakistani sogatan ji amb le lo jamnu le lo Pakistani taze mithe amb te jamnu aa gaye ji
ਯਕੀਨ ਕਰੋ ਜੀ ਭਾਈ ਨਾ ਮਾਰਟ ਫੂਡ ਸਟੋਰ ਵਾਲੇ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਵਰਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਤੋਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਬ੍ਰਾਂਡ ਦਾ ਅੰਬ ਮੰਗਵਾ ਕੇ ਪੂਰੇ ਯੂਕੇ ਨੂੰ ਨਸ਼ ਲਵਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨੀ ਜਾਮਣੂ ਵੀ ਭਾਈ ਉਹ ਜਨੇ ਨੇ ਆ ਪੁੱਤਰ
Amar Food Stores, Al Mashu, fresh halal meat and groceries. Address 613B Lincoln Road, Triangle, Peterborough. Telephone 01733 687374. Amar Food Stores, Meyar ka naam, munasib daam.
welcome back. This is your very own Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum for Salam Radio 106.2 FM on the Body, Health and Mind show. And before the break, we were talking about post-traumatic stress disorder and the various scenarios in which we can experience it, what the signs, what the symptoms are. And what I want to do for each and every one of us is I want to run a mindfulness session at approximately 20:45. So when the time is 8:45, I want us all to embark upon a mindfulness session. And until then, what I'd like you to do is, whilst you're listening to me, I want you to be aware of your breathing. And right now, as you're listening to this, I'd like you all to take a very deep breath in, hold it, and release. And I'd like you to repeat that for me. So on the count of 3, take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. Hold. And breathe out. And the reason why I want to do that is I want to lay the foundation of how you are feeling. And thank you, Zed. I've got lovely Zed who's come here. Keep up your great work, sister, spreading love and positivity to everyone. And it's because of people like you, Zed, that this gives me the motivation and the encouragement to keep going. I gain nothing by doing this. I don't do it for the self, as you know. I do it because I genuinely want people to feel healed in times of turbulence, pain and angst, where there is so much hurt. This world needs love, peace, togetherness, unity. We are such a great country with so many different communities. I see no reason why we shouldn't be able to come together and spread a little bit of love and positivity to each other. It is incredibly important. So please join me in that. Are we going to be team positive? Are we going to be team healing? Are we going to be team solutions? That is what we need to be. We need to be about team solutions. So if you want to be part of that team, you can be part of my team. You don't need an invitation. You can automatically come on board and I will welcome you all with open arms. So definitely, if you're listening to this and you feel part of that population that is in pain at this moment in time, and I'm going to come back to Sister Nadia's comment. I'm going to read Jason's comment as well. Jason, thank you very much. And one thing I want to share with Jason is I'm very proud of Jason. Jason is a good friend who served in the forces, and he takes such pride in being part of the Remembrance Day service, and he helped me polish my grandfather's medals and actually fix them to my coat. So I'm indebted to him for that. And I want to share what Jason has to say. And he says, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder in 2008 due to my military service. A charity called Combat Stress helped me out massively to turn my life around. They gave me a toolbox to combat my feelings. And it is about combating or negotiating those feelings or how to deal with them. So let's talk a little bit about how we deal with these feelings. And Sister Nadia spoke about survivor's guilt from witnessing all the trauma and death. I think about the survivors having lost their loved ones, no access to water and food. I'm going to hold on to that, Sister Nadia, and we're going to talk about how we can deal with that. First thing I'm going to say is that we have to divide the situations that are within our control, and we have to also look at those situations that are without our control. But that doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't care about them. What do we do to give ourselves a sense of purpose? Because I can see that those people that are traumatized by observing certain events or being connected to certain events need an incredible strength of purpose to see that they are doing something fulfilling. And Sister Nadia, you do so much amazing work in terms of your charity endeavors. You make people happy, you feed the homeless, and that is your purpose, because you automatically provide that healing to others. So you are a hub of healing in yourself. It is actually going to be, there's a lot of room for you to incorporate healing within your own being as well. So hold on to that whilst I talk a little bit about how we deal with those emotions of trauma and how we can deal with these emotions of trauma as a collective, thinking of us as a member of the human race, that we are an example of that humanity, and we're going to exude that humanity no matter how we're perceived, but we are going to be the best possible example of ourselves. Okay, so there is something that is known as EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. It does seem as an option to work quite well for treating post-traumatic stress disorder after experiencing a traumatic event. And that's something that I did want to talk to you about initially before we embark upon the mindfulness session. And briefly, when you go to a therapist who undertakes this desensitization therapy, the therapist asks you to think about aspects of your traumatic event and what you've experienced. And whilst you're thinking about it, you follow the movement of the therapist's fingers with your eyes. Nobody knows how it works. However, it is known to work because it seems to, and it has been found to, through studies, desensitize your thought patterns about the trauma that you have been receiving. And after a few sessions of therapy, you may find, and I use this word may because I use it broadly, that the memories of the event do not upset you as much as before. So that is known as a desensitization therapy as well. Self-help is something that I think I tend to advocate, but it has to be the right kind of self-help too. And Brother Sarwar Jamal, thank you for raising this very relevant topic. It's really hard to understand how to deal with the images and videos coming out of Gaza at the moment. I'm definitely team solution. We need to deal with the trauma together. Great deconstruction of the quote, by the way. Thank you. And thank you for providing that quote, Brother Sarwar Jamal. I think that was so important. I think it's important to share key messages and actually constructive messages to the population to insert and instill a sense of well-being. It's very, very important. And Jason, EMDR therapy was what released my memories and file them in the correct way. And that's absolutely right. So EMDR therapy is important for those that can access it through a therapist. Now, self-help. In this case, when we're looking at examples like Brother Sarwar Jamal about the events taking place in the Middle East, like Sister Nadia have seen as well, it is important to be able to group with people that are experiencing similar symptoms and talk about your feelings. It is important that you talk about how you are feeling as opposed to using negative emotions like anger. There is a great deal of power in measured articulation of how an individual is feeling. And it's okay to be emotional about it. It is okay to cry about it because, do you know what? Everybody within that group setting will feel the same. I know that social media, since its advent, has become a hub of information. It is important, though, to understand that not all information will be the information that can affect you in a positive way as well. So think about that. I remember being safeguarding lead for an area before I came to Peterborough, and I was faced with the ordeals of children that were being murdered by their parents. And I went through an element of post-traumatic stress disorder where I couldn't read the news about any safeguarding case of a child that had died. And this was just after Baby P's case. I couldn't do it. I couldn't read the news. Whenever I would see the headlines of a child that had died at the hands of their parents, I would go past it. I had children myself. I'd also like to share with you all that I suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder after going to Beit al-Jala for 2 weeks in 2006 when I performed some voluntary work. My symptoms lasted for 3 months. I went through EMDR. I also had a course of medication, but I developed the resilience and the skills, and I never stopped talking about how I felt afterwards. And I saw the effects of war. I really did. So anybody that wants to talk to me about how they feel, I've said this before, I say it again, please message me. I don't really care what faith, background, what your ethnicity is. If you see me as a safe space, I am here to help you all. And I'm here to help you find that peace within yourself, because there's an awful lot of pain. And what we need to do is come together and heal each other. It's very important. And to raise that profile of positivity within you as well. Now, going back to therapies, medication is an option if you find that talking about your situation and self-help therapies have failed. Now, self-help also incorporates a course of mindfulness and sessions, regular sessions of mindfulness on a daily basis. I think that's very important. Routine is important. Even if you can't sleep at night, going to bed in a timely manner, waking up in a timely manner is important. Because just as that quote I spoke of, which Brother Sarur Jamal had shared with me, the brightest light burns for half as long. You cannot burn your candle at both ends, so think about that. Now, how do you help somebody with post-traumatic stress disorder? I think it's really important that I talk to those people that are observing somebody that is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. So anyone in the family that you have observed that is behavioral changes, for example, such as taking time off work, that is sleep deprived, that is irritable, that is snappy, and is angry, these could be early signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. Provide a sympathetic ear, ask questions, talk about it, utilize family time to talk about these things at the dinner table. Give the person time to talk. Don't interrupt them. Let them say how they feel. It is so very important in this day and age that we understand and we allow people to say how they feel. And I think it's really important, I'd like to say here, that have a look at the etiquette of how we speak as well. Etiquette is incredibly important. It is okay to disagree with somebody and not engage in a conversation. It is okay to respectfully disagree with somebody. It is never okay to insult the other person. It is never okay to insult them, because none of us has the ability to change the trauma of the events that we are experiencing right now. And that's important. And if anybody did have, then we wouldn't be in the positions that we are in today. So it's very important that you maintain that level of respectful interaction and communication so that you have the ability and can be proud of yourself, that you can be an effective orator whilst empowering other people to heal themselves and validate them at the same time. It doesn't always work, like in my case, but yes, it's important that you try and never give up. And that's why I never want to give up. So if that's something you want to take home as positive, do take it home. Never give up on yourself or those loved ones around you that are facing turmoil in such a situation. The outlook for post-traumatic stress disorder is also that you can heal very quickly from this if you take the right steps. The symptoms can be enduring, but it's important that we embark upon a time where we know realistically that we are going to get over this. And we will. Like I said, that the grief and the pain doesn't get smaller. Life grows bigger around the grief. Do remember these words. Now, we are going to embark upon a session of mindfulness. But for this, I would like each and every one of you to settle. So I'm going to do this as well, because talking about these things, I do want to share with you all that I feel a weight within my chest when I talk about these things, because it invariably and unintentionally awakens those feelings of anxiety that I've felt through my own experiences. But I think it's important to be truthful and honest about that, because if I'm not and I don't articulate it, I won't be able to help myself. And how do I help myself? I embark upon a session of mindfulness with all of you. So I hope that you're all sitting comfortably in a chair. And if you're not, I want you to sit comfortably in a chair, because I'm going to be speaking to you all. Make sure that the room is silent. If you want to go and lie on a sofa, or you can lie on a bed. But I'd like you to make sure that you are in a quiet environment. And let's begin by taking a moment to settle your body into a comfortable position. So, all of you that have written those comments, whilst you're settling yourself into a comfortable position, I'm going to read out, Jason, never try to help anyone with PTSD if you are suffering yourself. Heal yourself first, or it could become a revolving door for you. Yoga and meditation does help for people who are in stress, also breathing techniques. Yes, Kieran, and that's what we're going to do now. Thank you so much for that suggestion. Jason, thank you for your suggestion. Asim Mahmood, good to see you live. Keep up the good work. Nadia, thank you, Doc. Information has been so helpful. We are further going to give some information. Nadia, I'd really like you to join in this mindfulness session. If you're still settling yourself in, just put your hands to your sides, and I would like you to slowly close your eyes or semi-close your eyes and begin slowly breathing. In the meantime, I'm going to talk to you all about an app called Smiling Mind, which is a mindfulness app. It will take you through a couple of questions that will actually chart out who you are as a person. It's a free app. I am writing it in the comments section so that you can have a look at it, and do 10 minutes of this every day. And this will help you mentally switch off as well. So I have written that there in the comments section. So I hope you're all nice and settled and your hands are by your side. Now close your eyes or keep them slightly open with a soft focus, looking downward a few feet in front of you, or facing the ceiling if you are lying down. I'd like you to allow your spine to lift and your shoulders to soften. And I'm sure when you allow your shoulders to soften, you will feel the tension that you have had all day within those shoulders. Just let those shoulders fall and release the tension that is being felt within those shoulders. And we're going to practice a scan of the various areas in your body to release any hidden tension or weight that you may be harboring or carrying. So what we're going to do so that we can start this body scan is to take a full breath in on the count of 1, 2, 3 and hold. And take a long, slow breath out. 2, 3, 4. Again, draw your breath in. 1, 2, 3, and hold. Then breathe out again. 2, 3, 4. And think about your breathing. Think about the air escaping through your nose or through your mouth. Relax your jaw. Relax your temples. Just let yourself sink into the chair or the bed that is carrying you. Think about the spaces in between your breathing and carry on breathing this way for a couple of breaths. Now I'm going to ask you to bring your attention to the top of your head. Do you notice any sensations in your head, in your forehead? Are there any sensations of pain? Are there any sensations of a weight? Allow that weight to slowly dissolve away through the deep breaths that you are taking. Let's start removing some of that weight. Imagine it. Focus it. Bring it to the front of your head. And as you take a deep breath in, get hold of it and eliminate it through the front of your forehead. And during this time, if you feel that there's something that you want to concentrate on, whether it's a verse of the Quran or an ayah or anything else that helps you relax, or if you're not of the Islamic faith, you want to think about sunshine, green fields, flowers, nature, running water, gentle breeze, anything that relaxes you, use those thoughts to dissolve away the weight that you're carrying within your head. Now move your attention down the back of your head and to the sides. Feel that with each movement, your head is becoming lighter, and as you're moving downwards, there is a release of those tense muscles holding all those thoughts. Move your attention to your neck and to your throat, and then move down to your shoulders and loosen them up again as you've been concentrating on your head. Your shoulders have tensed up. Now, notice the sensations that you are aware of, whether that's reciting again a religious verse. Shift the attention to your arms, your upper arms, and go down to your lower arm. Then your hands, and move that energy to your fingers, and feel this weight leave your fingers. You are free of this weight in these areas that we have just scanned. Bring your attention now to your upper back and push away all of that weight down into your lower back. Imagine it leaving your lower body from the area of your upper back. Let go. Let go of the weight. Then come down to your legs and feel the weight leave your legs from your knees and going down to your feet, through to your toes. And whatever it is that you have gathered in your thoughts, recite a verse if you feel that a religious verse gives you peace, or anything else that you imagine that gives you peace. And let this negative energy leave through your toes. Take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. And take a deep breath out. And then we are going to open our eyes at 1, 2, 3. I hope that has helped you all. And we have reached the last 45 seconds of our show. I really did want to carry on talking about this, but my intention was to bring some healing to everybody. All I'm going to say is, everybody, you know where I am and the team at Salam Radio is. We are here for all of you, irrespective of who you are. Nicola, Mohammed, Sister Nadia, lots of love to you all, lots of healing to you all. And let's come together and make each other stronger. A time will come when we will live in a world
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this